Wisconsin's governor provides his State of the State address. We'll tell you what issues he's focusing on this year.
And the man accused of setting a fire in a Wisconsin congressman's office appears in court. The charges he's now facing.
Plus, more coyotes are going to be out and about. What experts say you should do if you encounter one of these dangerous critters. That's all coming up on News 3 Now at 10. Good evening, everyone. I'm Sarah Carlson.
And I'm Eric Franke. Thanks for joining us. Tonight, Governor Tony Evers addressed the state of Wisconsin, giving his vision for what he wants to see in 2025.
It was the governor's 7th State of the State address. Political reporter Will Keneally is live at the Capitol with more on what policies the governor is focusing on. Will?
Yeah, Sarah and Eric, these addresses are opportunities for the governor to declare the year of something. And this year, it's the year of the kid.
Kids' circumstances beyond the school doors that nevertheless impact learning success in the classroom every day.
Governor Evers, speaking to both chambers of the state legislature, is pushing to tackle some of those issues. Address children's mental health, take lead out of drinking water, provide safe housing. Do that and you can help kids' performance in schools.
So tonight I'm declaring 2025 the year of the kid in Wisconsin because I want everyone here to start talking or taking that important responsibility seriously.
The governor's declaration also included a push for gun control legislation in Wisconsin. His speech Wednesday coming more than a month after the Abundant Life Christian School shooting in Madison.
We aren't here in Madison to quibble about the semantics of the last shooting. We are here to do everything we can to prevent the next one.
And the governor's speech comes just days after President Donald Trump's second inauguration. Evers made a pledge to Wisconsin immigrants during his speech.
It would have us abandon the values that made us who we are as the people whose blood, love, and labor make our state great. We cannot.
Yeah, so all that rhetoric aside, how feasible are some of these proposals that the governor is pushing forward? We'll hear from Maddie Himes talking to some Republicans in the state capitol coming up within a few minutes. But for now, reporting from the state capitol, Will Keneally, News 3 Now.
All right, thank you, Will. Now, reaction to the governor's State of the State address is pouring in from both sides of the aisle. In a statement to News 3 Now, Democratic State Representative Lisa Subeck praised the governor's speech, saying, quote, Governor Evers makes clear that the Democratic vision for Wisconsin is one where our kids are cared for, our streets are safe, and working families can get ahead. She says, I was thrilled to see that the governor continues to prioritize bringing down the cost of living for all Wisconsinites, end quote. And State Representative Randy Udell echoing those sentiments in a state of his own, saying his, quote, priorities are always and have been addressing the needs of Wisconsin families, and he's offered a powerful vision for the upcoming budget cycle, end quote. And Governor Tony Evers' State of the State address comes just days after President Donald Trump's inauguration.
The state Republicans are, of course, giving their reaction to the governor's speech tonight. For more on what they had to say, let's go out live once again to the state capitol where Maddie Himes is standing by. Maddie?
Yeah, the big word we heard from Republican lawmakers following Evers' speech was the word ideological. Lots of lawmakers arguing that the policies Evers laid out were not only not doable, but not affordable. Now, Evers spent a big chunk of his address talking about gun laws. He cited the recent shooting at Abundant Life Christian School and suicide rates in the state, making proposals like red flag laws and self-assigned firearm exclusion, punctuating those proposals with the phrase, we can do better than doing nothing. Now, here's what Assembly Speaker Robin Vos said in response to that idea.
We already have background checks in Wisconsin. We already have provided over $100 million to harden schools. We have already put money into mental health. Unfortunately, sometimes people do bad things, and there's only so much that we can do to prevent it.
Vos made it clear that he believed Evers' speech to be filled with empty promises. He said instead that this is what the state should be focused on.
Making sure that we have high educational standards with any increase in funding for our schools. We're going to make sure that if someone is here illegally and commits a crime, they are going to be deported by cooperating with ICE. And most importantly, we are not going to spend that surplus on growing the size of government.
I want to pick out the second thing Vos said there. Evers dedicated a portion of his address to immigrants in Wisconsin, asking both sides of the aisle to agree that if those work Those who work, obey the law, pay taxes, and, quote, play by the rules should be able to continue pursuing the American dream. Now, Voss, on the other hand, in response, said that he is open to the idea of repealing birthright citizenship and said that he would be helping with some legislation next week related to deportation. He wouldn't go into many details about that legislation, besides that it had to do with cooperating with ICE. But again, we'll hear more on that next week. For now, reporting live in the Wisconsin State Capitol, I'm Maddie Heimsch, News 3 Now.
Yeah, Maddie, thank you. Certainly something we'll follow up on next week, as you mentioned. Thank you. Well, the dangerously cold wind chills are behind us.
And some seasonably chilly weather is in our forecast. Alex is here to fill us in on the forecast ahead.
Yeah, seasonable is a really good way of putting things. We're out of that deep freeze. We made a lot of progress today in getting out of that deep freeze. The warmer airs would help produce that snow that we saw across most of southern Wisconsin. Not everybody saw snow today. Let's take a look at radar 3000 right now. Here in Dane County, you see the snowflakes on me. There's a few blue patches across all of Dane County. Just a few snowflakes left. The more extensive area of snow extends from Janesville east across over towards Elkhorn and Walworth County. In this area, we're seeing snow coming down still at a moderate clip. So if you're joining us from Rock, Beloit, Janesville over towards Elkhorn, you still might get a healthy inch of snow yet tonight. Future track showing that last little band here in Madison making it down to Janesville during the early morning hours of Thursday, and our temperatures will eventually slide tonight from mild right now, relatively speaking, to where we've been in the 20s across much of southern Wisconsin. We've got a 24 in Middleton, 22 at the airport, and 22 down the road on 14 in Oregon. Now, seasonably cold. Sarah was just right on the money there. Temperatures near 20 Thursday and Friday. We got a lot warmer weather to track. I'll let you know how warm. And we're going to talk about, although it's dry in the 3 things you need to know, I am going to impart a little bit of hope for February and March when it comes to snow. That's coming up.
All right, thank you, Alex. The man accused of setting fire to Representative Glenn Grothman's office is now officially charged. On Sunday, crews responded to the Republican congressman's office in Fond du Lac for reports of a fire. They later arrested 19-year-old Caden Sage Stakowitz, who allegedly admitted to setting the office on fire because of the national TikTok ban. Stakowitz is charged with arson, terrorist threats, attempted burglary, and criminal damage to property. He made his first court appearance for those charges earlier today.
I also believe that there is a potential risk to the public. The court is ordering a $500,000 cash bond, no contact with Congressman Grothman, his office, or staff, or areas that are leased or rented for his campaign.
The next court date is scheduled for January 30th.
A driver is dead after a crash that happened in Janesville this morning. Janesville PD says officers were called to a single vehicle accident at Humes Road and Deerfield Drive. There they found a vehicle and multiple traffic signals on the ground. Firefighters attempted life-saving measures, but the driver died at the scene. The cause of the crash remains under investigation. And a tow truck driver in Neenah being hailed a hero tonight after helping save 2 people from a fiery car crash Monday night. Tanner Adder says he was getting ready to leave his apartment for work when he heard a boom. A car had been flipped on its side with a woman inside screaming. Adder called 911. Then he put on his snow gear, grabbed a fire extinguisher, and drove his tow truck around the block to the crash scene.
The lady was sitting on top of the vehicle right here, holding the door open, saying her husband was trapped inside. As I was trying to pull him up, the officer arrived on scene, extinguished the fire that was in the engine bay again, and then came around. I helped him up on top of the vehicle, and he assisted me with getting the husband out of the car.
Now, Neenah police have praised Tanner for his heroic actions. The woman was treated at the hospital and released. Now, as of Tuesday night, her husband was still hospitalized.
Financial concerns are cited as reason for some changes at UW-Madison. The vice chancellor of the Division of Diversity, Equity, and Educational Achievement is stepping down after a review of financial concerns. Dr. LeVar Charleston led the division for the last 3 years. UW-Madison says an ongoing review of the department's finances revealed concerns over operations and financial assessment. Charleston will return to his backup appointment as a clinical professor. Meantime, Provost Charles Isabel will serve as the division's acting director until an interim director is appointed. Well, a recent City of Madison report highlights housing affordability issues in the city. This is according to a recent study released by the 2024 Housing Strategy Committee. It turns out 47% of renters cannot afford their housing in the city. In addition to the affordability challenges, Madison's rental options are scarce. The city has one of the lowest rental vacancy rates in the country, only beat by Providence, Rhode Island and New York City. The report recommends the city supports the creation of more homes, scale up new affordable rent units, and create more affordable student housing.
Well, have you heard some howling at night while walking the dog? Don't worry, you worried maybe it was a coyote? You may have been right. Residents reported more than a dozen sightings to the UW Urban Canid Project's iNaturalist page since November, and one of the animals that made headlines on social media was roaming around the neighborhood near Vilas Park and was captured at the beginning of the month. Extension Wildlife Specialist David Drake says mating season for coyotes has just begun.
When they're active during the day, that gets us a little concerned in the sense that it maybe suggests that they're starting to get used to human beings or losing their fear of human beings. And at that point, we want to make sure that we are alerting the humans that coyotes are around so that they can protect and make sure their companion animals are safe.
Well, Drake advises keep your dogs leashed for the rest of mating season. If your dog is smaller than 20 pounds and you do see a coyote, he suggests picking your dog up off the ground.
The Wisconsin DNR released a study looking at the impact of chronic wasting disease on deer. Researchers found that female deer with CWD had an annual survival rate of 41%. Now, the rate for a doe without that disease is 83%. For bucks, the survival rate drops to 17% annually. That's compared to the rate of 69% for those who are not infected.
We find that chronic wasting disease immediately chips away at population growth potential, you'd say. But at low prevalences, we're still would see positive population change. And it's only when basically CWD prevalence of adult females reaches 30% or so, where you start to see where the disease is causing a decline in the deer population. But indeed,
since the discovery of CWD in Wisconsin, more than 200,000 deer have been tested, of which only about 3,500 have tested positive.
After the break at 10, Alex tells us about the warmer temperatures on the way this weekend.
And at least one student is dead after a school shooting in Tennessee. The ongoing investigation as police search for a motive. Stay with us.
You're watching News 3 Now at 10.
Police in Nashville, Tennessee are investigating a school shooting.
At least one student is dead and another wounded. The police say a 17-year-old student with a pistol walked into the Antioch High School cafeteria and fired multiple shots just after 11 o'clock this morning.
The individual wounded two other students, one of them fatally, before shooting and killing himself. There is no danger at the school.
Here's what we know. Both shooting victims were female students. A male student suffered injuries but was not shot. Police say they don't know the shooter's motive. The school in Nashville's Antioch neighborhood is home to about 2,000 students.
Immigration is one of President Trump's central focal points just 2 days into his second term.
His administration is considering deploying as many as 10,000 soldiers to the U.S.-Mexico border to crack down on illegal immigration. Natalie Brand has more from Washington.
Mr. President. Thank you.
President Trump granted the first Oval Office interview of his second term to Fox News host Sean Hannity, focusing in part on the executive orders he has signed. The Defense Department says the Pentagon will send an additional 1,500 troops to the U.S.-Mexico border to try to stem the flow of undocumented migrants. But CBS News has learned the actual number of troops could be much higher, as many as 10,000. Department of Defense bases could hold migrants awaiting deportation.
This was a gross miscarriage of common sense to allow people to come in. And I believe the number is 21 million people.
In Texas, additional buoys were deployed on the U.S. side of the Rio Grande. Communities across the nation are preparing for possible mass deportations.
There are things that have yet to take place that folks in the community are concerned about. And what we ask them to do is to reach out to trusted legal representation.
Another focus of the Trump administration, diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Several federal departments have removed their pages tied to DEI after the Trump administration ordered the dismantling of those programs.
Programs like this are designed to make sure every American American is represented.
And the founder of the far-right Oath Keepers group, Stuart Rhodes, paid a visit to Capitol Hill after he received a pardon for his actions related to January 6th.
Many of the officers that were brutally assaulted that day are the same officers who protected Donald Trump on Monday.
Former Capitol Hill police officers, still shaken by that day, accused the Republican Party of turning their backs on them. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
Now, also, Trump said FEMA is getting in the way of handling disasters and that states should instead take over using money from the federal government.
Now, for a look at your first one, forecast temperatures will be low over the coming days, but not dangerously cold.
And a warm-up is on the horizon. Chief Meteorologist Alex Harrington has the details in our forecast.
Yes, we made it through the bitterly cold tundra weather, and as part of that warmer air coming in is what helped brought the snow that some of southern Wisconsin saw today. And the good news is the temperatures are going to continue to climb from here after 2 more cold days, but not dangerously cold days, as Eric and Sarah were saying. But I do want to just call out any travel tonight. There are slick spots out there on the road. We still have a little bit more snow to go through tonight. Not expecting significant snow accumulation, but we have flurries and snow showers across all of Dane County right now. The more persistent snow stretches from just south and east of Janesville along 39, going off towards the north and to the east, north and west of 43, just north and west of Elkhorn. And this is coming down at a moderate pace at about a ½ inch per hour. So that part of southern Wisconsin may still see from Janesville over towards Elkhorn, maybe another inch tonight. And some areas localized have seen 2, 3, 4 inches. Our snow vision accumulation product, this is an estimate, is also verifying the heavier snow with today's snow event has been over towards Janesville. Madison at the airport, officially 1 inch. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. Then a little pocket here over southwest Wisconsin, Iowa County, Sauk County, portions of Grant County, nothing. And then over towards Vernon County, they snuck in an inch of snow. Real quick here, that last batch is going to pass from Madison to Janesville here as we go into the early morning hours, and then that will be the end of the snow and the end of our snow chances really for the next 10 days. More on that though in a moment. Temperatures tonight will eventually get into the single digits as skies will eventually go from cloudy to partly cloudy as we go right towards the beginning of Thursday morning. Temperatures tomorrow in the teens, so there's still progress there. Cold, but not that dangerously, bitterly cold stuff that we've been experiencing. And we see that too as we track our wind chills. In the morning, we could have wind chills down to about 5 below. But we'll work our way up those wind chills into right around that 0 to single digit. So cold day, a January-like day in my opinion. But then things change. Friday, we're around 21. That's a little bit warmer. Then all the way up to 34 by Saturday. And then in the mid to upper 30s all of next week to near 40 degrees. So huge change from morning low temperatures just the other day to 20 below. High temperatures now are going to be upwards of 10 degrees above normal. So that swing, that roller coaster ride begins again. Recap here, cold on Thursday, cold on Friday, but not dangerously cold. Then the temperatures really start to warm up with temperatures approaching near 40 by the middle of next week. Now, in terms of snow, look at the purple squares here. We've had upwards now of 1.6 inches of snow. That's all for the entire month of January because we had just about an inch today, and we'll get maybe a little bit more, maybe another 1/10 of an inch of snow in Madison. That's 1.6 inches for the month of January, and it doesn't look like we're going to add much more here. But just to end my weathercast here with a little bit of optimism, even though January we're a foot below normal, February comes in at on average about 13 inches, and look down there, March comes in at about 7. So if you're looking for snow, there's still hope in sight because we have more of winter to go.
And coming up in sports, down goes number 1. How Whitewater went into Platteville and left with a big-time win in the WIAC. That's next on News 3 Now. Platteville men's basketball has been on fire since basically the season started. The Pioneers climbed to the #1 ranking in Division III and entered tonight on a 14-game win streak. And none of that matters to Whitewater. Warhawks looking to make a statement in the WIAC, and they got off to a great start. Colin Madison dials one up from deep, and Whitewater led for the entire first half. Logan Pearson trying to bring his squad back. Platteville's all-time leading scorer adds 2 more to his total. But every time the Pioneers would get close, Carter Capstrand and the Warhawks would answer. Cap splashes home the triple. He finished with a game-high 23 as Whitewater knocks off #1 Platteville 74-68. Luke Fickell was a nose guard during his playing days at Ohio State, so he's a fan of a tough and gritty brand of football, one that historically when Wisconsin plays, they have success, and it appears he's found an offensive coordinator who shares that same mindset. For the first time since being introduced as UW's new OC, Jeff Grimes spoke with the media, and it became clear quickly what he wants the Badger offense to do: run the ball.
Just a mentality that wants to win with a rough, gritty brand of football, one that is going to establish the run and then utilize the vertical passing game that comes from the ability to run the football. You know, I believe when you can run the football, then you can do anything. If you can't run the football, then it limits your ability to do a number of other things.
Well, Ben Johnson was officially introduced as the next head coach of the Chicago Bears this afternoon. The former Lions OC takes over a franchise who's beaten the Packers just 4 times in the last 30 meetings. And Johnson said he wanted to stay in the NFC North, and he's already added some fuel to that oldest rivalry in the NFL.
And to be quite frank with you, I kind of enjoyed beating Matt LaFleur twice a year.
2021 was the last time Wisconsin had a Hobie Baker Award winner, with Cole Caulfield taking home the title as college hockey's most outstanding player. This year, UW could have another winner. Wisconsin's top line of Quinn Finley, Gavin Morrissey, and Rylan Mosley are all up for the award. The trio have combined for 38 goals and 87 points so far this season. And just a reminder to check out this week's Wisconsin Huddle with Casey O'Brien on Friday at 6:30 right here on News 3 Now. We're back after this.